Please call the
I
roll.
don't have contracts since 2000.
Gibson.
Present.
Yielding.
Here.
Robinson.
Here.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Present.
Height.
Here.
And Witcher.
Present.
Quorum is present, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Can I ask that we stand for the prayer to be led by Alderman Height, followed by the pledge by Alderman Witcher?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather tonight to conduct the affairs and city's business. Lord, we pray during this time of Thanksgiving that you will watch over all of those that are overseas, protecting us here at home. Lord, we pray for those that are sick, and we especially lift up the name of Gary Berry's mother tonight, who passed away last week. Lord, we pray that in the coming days that all of our thoughts, all of our words, and all of our deeds will be pleasing in your sight. Forgive us of our many sins. In Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So moved. Second. Motion made and seconded. The minutes of the previous meeting, along with the special call meeting, be approved as submitted. On the motion, Ms. Marshall?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes. Communications, do I have a motion?
So move 1 through 3.
That's what I see. I know Alderman, we'll go ahead and hold number 2 on the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes. What you call number 2, I assume that Alderman Vestal, I think he wants that read in full. Please.
Mayor Patrick H. Hayes. This is to remind you, Mayor Hayes, that we, the FOP North Rock Police Department officers, have requested for you in order to discuss the matter of our contract. We are currently using and have been using the contract that was accepted in the year 2000. We sent you a request for this meeting on October the 29th, 2004. We also have made contact to your office several times by telephone on many different occasions. As of this time, we have not yet been contacted either for or against this meeting from you. The matter that we desire to address is very important to us. It should be of importance to you. By your lack of response, we can only assume that it is of little importance to you. This lack of response is very demoralizing to the men and women that serve your community. We, your devoted officers, have been serving your community and will continue to provide the highest level of security to the citizens of North Little Rock. But your lack of support and total disregard to professionally acknowledge our request has been noted by general employees. This has and will undermine the devotion that has been manifested by your officers. Your response to this request should be prompt and forthcoming. Respectfully submitted, B.T. Carmichael, FOP President, R. Scott Supervisors Association.
Move we accept this file.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson. Yes.
Gibson. Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes. I just simply note that that's been 3 weeks. There are a few things that have gone on in the last 3 weeks, and the officers will get a response. Next item. You got any, Alderman Witcher?
Right. Mayor, could we talk about communications number 3 and get Chief McCall to talk to us about it?
Sure. See what it is. Sure. I mean, we can get to that when we get to Alderman Yielding's legislation if you want to, or you want to do it now.
Shielding.
Let's just do it now because Alderman Berry's not here, and
All right. The floor is open.
I just like, for the chief to visit with us about this, if he could.
Chief?
Working on budgets now.
Yes, sir.
You're supposed to be doing the talking, Chief. All right, I guess specifically what I was interested in, Chief, is I saw the bids that came back that you had gathered, and I was wondering, and I saw the Pierce bid, do we normally use Pierce equipment, or is that pretty well standard for us?
Pierce did,
Hold on a second, excuse me.
excuse me.
I think it is, isn't it? Okay, thank you.
Pierce did manufacture the ladder truck that we have at the Lakewood Station. They've manufactured the last 3 pumpers that we've purchased that were demonstrator purchases. They're a good quality company. And I am trying to standardize the fleet to where our mechanic can learn 1 or 2 electrical systems, be able to stock some parts without having to stock multiple type parts. They did submit the low bid, which prepaid.
Prepaid. Okay. When we place the order, okay, I noticed F&F Supply has an option 1 and option 2. Could you tell us about those?
Yes, those are pre-built demonstrator trucks. In your packet, you'll see where they did not meet the current specifications that we did ask for.
Okay. And you feel as though all the spec items that you need, that you absolutely have to have, or are they preferences, or are they
They are
standards?
preferences and safety items. We did ask for an independent front suspension, which decreases the stopping distance of 23% and increases the life of tires. Some manufacturers did not bid a front suspension as we asked for it.
I think it seems like to me the sound is coming in and going out, so I don't know, Mr. Smith, you out there, somebody kind of check on what's happening, but it's coming in or coming out. We're having some sound problems, at least from my ears.
Mayor, that may be me fading in and out. I'm getting older, Mayor.
The option 1 and option 2, which is a KME apparatus,
Okay.
did not even come close to meeting the specifications. Their original bid, which will be a special built truck that is not on the line currently, came closer to meeting the specifications, but their bid was $768,742.
Chief just went in and out again, for whatever it's worth.
It's coming out on TV fine, it's just the PA in here that just got shorted.
Okay.
Okay. But Mayor, that's the only questions I had.
Yeah,
Art.
prepaid.
And in order to get the 756-425 bid, we would have to do that when? By
That is-
when?
These prices are good through January the 31st. We might can get an extension on that if necessary, but I do have a guarantee through January the 31st.
Okay. Mayor, those are the only questions I had.
All right, on the agenda, we're into presentations. The Housing Review Board, Alderman Gibson, I believe that's your committee meeting?
Yes, you got our amendment for tonight. We met today, our final meeting. There were a couple of questions that were raised about the original ordinance. One had to do with the orientation of the front door. The second had to do with the allowing of asphalt driveways. I think we addressed both of them, which we'll do at the, when we actually call the legislation.
We recessed the public hearing, then I'm going to go ahead and reconvene that public hearing on the Residential Housing Design Review Board. Open that public hearing. Is there anyone here in the audience that cares to comment on this issue? I'm going to adjourn the public hearing. Next item is public hearing regarding an amendment to ordinance number 7577 to fix the user charge for wastewater project of Municipal Improvement District Number 2, Sherwood. Mr. Mills, you want to remind us of what we're looking at on this one, and then I'll open that public hearing.
Mayor, if you'll recall, sometime back, the city helped this sewer improvement district by passing a bond issue. My recollection is it was $205,000. This amendment to the ordinance we'll set a fee for those residents in that sewer improvement district to repay that bond issue.
Public hearing's open. Does anyone here care to talk about that? The introduction Mr. Mills gave. Going once, going twice. That public hearing's adjourned. Can we go to old business?
Old business. R 0494, Mayor Hayes.
I don't think that's Mayor Hayes. 0494.
I'm sorry, it's Yielding and Berry.
I'm going to hold it right now.
All right, next item.
R 04104, Mayor Hayes.
Hold it. Our city attorney tells me to hold it. Ordinances?
Ordinances 0456, Mayor Hayes and Alderman Gibson.
On 0456, I'd like to call that. I'd like to amend in the amendment, the ordinance that we passed around.
Would you please read it?
This is an ordinance creating and establishing the North Little Rock Residential Housing Design Review Board, third and final reading.
You have a motion now?
I move to amend in this amended 0456 that's been
Is there a
passed
second to that
around.
motion to amend? On the
Second.
motion to amend, Ms. Marshall?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Mayor, I'd like to just briefly, we've met, I guess, the last 6 meetings here, had open meetings here at City Council chambers at 5 o'clock. Good representation, an attorney, an architect, a builder, and a person involved with the CDC, and myself. And basically was to, if you're building a new house, here's the checklist that you have to go with. If for some reason you don't have that checklist, this sets up a residential design review board, which they would go to get a variance on those items. Authorizes the mayor to appoint this. The only thing I would like to do is put in the emergency clause, change it to be effective January 30th, 2005, because it would give the mayor then an opportunity to appoint that 3-person board.
What date?
January 30th, or January 31st, 2005. When we get to the emergency clause, I would like to do that. But there was some question raised about driveway materials, and we addressed that if you've got a 1-acre lot and this long driveway, the first 50 foot of it has to be concrete. And that's the only exception. The rest of the time, you have to have a concrete. The front of the house or the duplex has to face the street or within the front third of that area. And everything else has been the same stuff we've had previously. And we addressed the biggest change require 12-inch eave and require a 412 pitch. And I think that takes away, that allow modular homes, will not allow some of the things we're seeing that are trying to be bought into the city and called residences. So we voted on the amendment. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We're in discussion on the amendment, if I'm not
Okay,
mistaken.
I'm
Is
sorry.
that right, Ms. Marshall?
That's right.
All right, on the amendment.
On the amendment.
No, not yet. We're still in discussion.
Well, actually, it's part of the amendment, but it's in the original legislation as well. It's concerning the decks over 3 feet in height shall be considered part of the primary structure and constrained by established building line setbacks. Why do we want to restrict that to 3 feet?
Mr. Voiles?
And is that the 3-foot height requirement on the decks being part of the building setback?
Yes, sir.
And why do we want to restrict that to 3 feet?
There was some discussion about the danger of involved in retaining walls. The Board of Adjustment has a 2-foot front, and this was a compromise that came to 3.5 feet in front and side, 5 feet in rear. The 5 would allow a 3-foot railing above it and meet the city's codes, and on the side, you could, on a 3.5-foot retaining, you could put a 3 or 2.5-foot railing and have some protection. So the combination wouldn't automatically
Well, I just-
violate our fence ordinance.
Okay, I was just making sure, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Robert.
Any further discussion on the motion to
Mayor.
amend, Alderman Height?
Does that take into consideration corner lots?
This does not
that apply to
give
corner
anything
lots?
specific to corner lots. I know there's some issues regarding corner lots that we may want to address later, but this is really the residential appearance, and a few site features, but it does not mention corner lots.
Well, but Section 2E refers to front, side yard, and rear yards.
Correct.
We're going to have to amend in a change later to take into consideration the problem with corner lots and fences and walls.
Well, fences, I can assure you, after some of the instances I've looked at this last week, my next goal is to work on corner lot fencing. Fencing in general, but particularly corner lot fencing. Because you can basically build a fence that your neighbor behind you cannot see to get out of his driveway.
Exactly.
And we need to address that, and I'd like to get, as soon as we get this one out of the way, I'm going to ask the mayor to get someone else to lead that charge, or get someone to do it, because it is a very bad situation. But this, we deal with any kind of new construction. This only deals with new construction.
But there are some new construction going on corner lots somewhere.
And you can do that. But well, I'm referring to the fencing part of it.
Yeah. The other question I had, too, is down there where it says properties, this is in 2B, properties greater than 1 acre in size may use asphalt with the first 50 feet of the drive being concrete. Is that the standard norm now, is 50 feet?
No.
It's a negotiated something we did today, because there was if you've got a 1 acre lot, and a lot of these more than 1 acre, and they're usually 2 or 3 acres that you've got sitting 200-foot. Faulkner Lake Road's got several of them.
A bunch.
We're going to require them to put concrete on the first 50 foot of that, and they can build whatever they can build asphalt the rest of the way. But they've got to have concrete, so it would match up, because you may have the house next door to it's right up on the road. Has to have a concrete driveway, and you don't want to have the concrete asphalt. So the first 50 foot of it, which would be basically what's standard at a house. Usually you build 7 foot back to is the start of the building line, 25, so you're 32 foot from the curb with a house normally, under most conditions. So what we're doing is just saying, if
Increasing
you've
it.
got this big lot, you can build it, that asphalt driveway, but the first 50 foot of it's going to be concrete.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We're on the motion to amend. Any further discussion on the motion to amend? Ms. Marshall?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Now the
Move to
Adoption is amended.
adopt. Thank you, Tony.
motion to adopt is amended. Now, you want to go ahead and amend the emergency clause?
Yeah, well, that comes after we
That's
do
right.
this.
All right, on the motion to adopt is amended, Ms. Marshall.
On the motion to adopt as amended, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
On the emergency,
I'd like to amend the emergency to say January 31st, 2005.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion to amend,
on the motion to amend the emergency clause would be Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
next item,
00461, Mayor Hayes, Alderman Gibson, and Berry.
please call it.
Mayor?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, right, we actually did not pass the emergency. I think we just passed an amendment, didn't we?
That's correct.
Okay, on the motion to adopt as amended
Thank
then.
you.
I assume that Alderman Gibson made that and Alderman Witcher. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You're the parliamentarian for the night, Alderman Witcher.
From now
You're
Congratulations.
in bad shape.
From now on.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
00461.
Please call it.
This is an ordinance creating North Little Rock Municipal Code 10-46 prohibiting pit bull breeds of dogs within the city of North Little Rock. Third and final reading.
I would entertain a motion to adopt and encourage the council to go forward with this.
Well, I'll make that motion. There's a couple of things I want to
Second.
Second, motion made and seconded, discussion, Alderman Gibson.
No, I mean, no,
Oh,
that,
I'm sorry.
not,
Any discussion?
oh, now, this is on the,
Pit bull.
I know what it is, I'm just trying to, we read it 3 times, okay? I went through Dr. Allen's requested amendments, and other than changing the word banning to restricting, there's not a whole lot of difference in what we have in the two. I don't care if you use the word banning or restricting, it doesn't make me any difference, because we're basically restricting them instead of banning them.
The only, and help me, Mr. Grace, you want to come to the microphone, the difference is the banning would not allow any new of these breeds to come into the city.
That's correct.
Restricting would allow new breeds to come into the city. So there is a fairly material difference between banning and restricting in terms of at least how I understand the ordinance would be interpreted. And I know that one of Mr. Grace's major concerns was the neutering of these breeds, and that comports with the recommendations of a group of veterinarians. And while I certainly respect their input, I know Dr. Allen is in the audience, I do believe that that breed, or these breeds that are defined, have a much greater strength in their jaw pressure than most other breeds. And there is a characteristic that at least I've heard testified to about the pit bulls or these breeds locking on and not chewing, if you use that way in describing it. So, from my perspective, I would respectfully disagree with the recommendation of our veterinarian board, and I support the language as drafted. Now, the council obviously can choose to do what it wants to do, and there's no doubt that this legislation has certainly spurned a great deal of interest. I support the legislation as drafted, and
That's fine
would
with me.
encourage the
I
council
just
to
need
consider it.
I need a real good understanding, and I believe you've given me that. That was if you read what they suggested, basically, that was the main thing.
Right. And I think Dr. Allen's here, and I think that was the main thing I
And-
heard him say last council meeting.
But my whole, I want to do this. I just want to make sure we have it the way we do. I'm ready to vote.
And obviously, that is one of the main issues up for perhaps differences of opinion. And while I very much appreciate the input of the veterinarians, I support it as drafted, and I support the use of the word ban.
Let's vote.
Alderman Yielding, and then
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, everywhere it says ban, we change to restrict. And I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion on that motion? On the motion, Ms. Marshall?
On the motion, Gibson,
Nope.
Yielding,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Vestal,
Yes.
Height,
No.
and Witcher.
No.
It's 4. Mayor chooses not to vote.
Motion failed.
At some point, I need to ask a question.
Okay. Motion fails if that's just 4, and
Right.
my, recollection of how we run things. So, motion fails. We're back to discussion, Alderman Thomas.
I guess one of the things I had, they spoke of show dogs, that they want to take. Is that, are they still permitted with?
I think show dogs are permitted. Mr. Grace, you want to just kind of hang around up here in case we have any? I think show dogs are something that we injected in the last amendment that permits them.
Yes, sir. They did make an exception for show dogs, AKC registered show dogs that bring them to the shelter or to a licensed veterinarian and have their AKC number tattooed under the left flank and produce several forms of written proof that they are actively showing the animal.
Yes, one other concern I had too, I noticed from the film that we had, some of the dogs was on short leashes, and it was very disturbing there. Under this ordinance, I know we've changed it several times, are they going to be allowed to have them on lease, or will they have to have them in a...
They won't be allowed to be kept on chains to To a fixed dog, no, sir.
Okay.
Discussion, Alderman Vestal.
Mayor, on page 3, under section D, actually, it's page 2, section D, I'm sorry, I've got a page of, Dr. Allen suggested that we amend, take paragraph, line 2, to have in there that if the dog is old, the dog has to be 4 months of age and it must be by a licensed veterinarian.
Are you following, Alderman? I mean, Mr. Grace, you following where are you, Alderman?
It's the second page under section D.
Section B?
D, like
D.
a dog.
Dog 2.
And what are you saying now, Alderman?
And Dr. Allen had suggested we make this to read if the dog is older than 4 months of age, and also add on the end of it by a licensed veterinarian.
Right.
It won't matter.
We do that anyway. That's state law.
All right,
The
well,
4 months of age is? The 4 months of age is state law?
I was talking about the licensed veterinarian administering the rabies vaccination, but I think 4 months is a state law, isn't it, Doctor? I know this, our city ordinance calls for 4 months.
Yeah, it already calls for it.
Well, then, if our
Essentially,
city
it's
ordinance calls for 4 months, then would this be in any conflict?
No, not at all. That's already required under existing city ordinance. So as a result, putting that in is just redundant. It's already in the law.
Okay.
Like, in other words, they have to come prove they've been vaccinated. It's required by law. Well, in order to be vaccinated, they have to have met the law anyway.
I was just making sure we covered all the bases here.
Sure.
Alderman Yealing?
If you have one of these AKC show dogs that under this proposed ordinance, if it passes like this, so you have one of those, or do they bite any less than the ones that aren't AKC registered?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. All right, I just had that question. I also would like to say that, you know, it's all relative, Mayor, and whoever else, how bad the bite is. If you're the person getting bit, you could be getting bit by my dog, and you're going to think it's pretty bad. Okay? So, you know, it's like, where does it go next? I mean, where are the Rottweilers in here? Where are the German Shepherds? Why aren't we talking about them? You know, that's why I think restricting them is the way to go. I mean, restrict these dogs, put restrictions on them, but banning something, you know, it just doesn't make any logical sense, especially when you're not getting rid of the ones that are, if it's that bad, it doesn't get rid of the ones that are here. So that dog's going to be living on Glenmere still, as long as it's living. That's all I had to say.
Any other council member?
Couple of questions.
Alderman Height?
Mr. Grace and I had a discussion this morning at length about this ordinance. What is it, your knowledge is failure of complying with this ordinance?
You know, we don't know how many are out there because they don't register the animals. But I know the vast majority of them out there, it will get rid of because they're not going to be licensed when this ordinance passes, and they're going to refuse to neuter the animal as called for in this ordinance. That's the one thing we've not been able to succeed in over the past several years. They won't even talk about neutering the animal.
Okay, we also talked about, can you hear me?
Yeah, well, just talk a little louder.
I'm about half deaf, Alderman.
It's the local PA system that's not working.
We also discussed other breeds of animals getting out and attacking other dogs and other humans, and that maybe we ought to tighten up our vicious dog law and make it a little bit more severe as the penalty is concerned for other types of animals getting out and attacking people, for example.
Okay. I'm not sure, was that a
Where are
question?
you going?
Well, what I'm saying is that, you know, we discussed this morning the possibility down the road is going with a zero tolerance law on animals getting out and attacking.
Once they've already been declared vicious?
Once they've been declared,
Right.
and now we've obviously declaring pit bulls as vicious,
Right.
and we're going to ban those. But for those people that have an AKC registered show dog and that dog gets out and bites somebody, what are we going to do about that one?
Well, it's built in the ordinance. If the animal's declared vicious, it's no longer excluded. Then it has to be treated just like any other pit bull. Is that right, Mr. City Attorney? Is that what we put in there?
Yeah, if
No,
a
I know
dog's
we did.
declared vicious under existing ordinances, it can be ordered put to sleep by the district judge, Judge Hamilton.
Right.
And we have done that before.
Good.
But, the harm of going and having a zero tolerance, if you have a Chihuahua that bites somebody on the finger, then that dog's vicious. It's up to the judge, but a Chihuahua that just bites somebody on the finger may not want to be put to sleep by the judge, so that's where it comes up to the discretion of the judge in that case.
So
For all dogs.
the severity of the attack, the severity of the
A
bite.
case that
has
comes to
taken
mind, I
consideration.
forget what type of dog it was, but there was a dog that jumped through a glass window of a house and came after a police officer.
It was a pit
After
bull.
hearing a pit bull, yes, it was. And after hearing the evidence, Judge Hamilton ordered the dog put to sleep.
Alderman, were you, when you're referring to our conversation this morning, are you referring to about concern that they'll bring Rottweilers in if we ban pit bulls and then bring German Shepherds in? In the 9 years I've been there, I've been hearing that some other breed was coming at any day to take the place of the pit bull. And I can't even name all the breeds. What was the breed that killed the lady in California? That breed was supposed to have already taken the place of the pit bull. To this point, nothing has came close to taking the place of the pit bull. They tried Rottweiler. We all saw that. They just can't hold up with a pit bull.
Any other discussion? On the motion, do we have a motion to adopt as amended, or where are we, Ms. Marshall?
We,
I think we
Amendment.
failed to adopt an amendment, and then do we have a motion to adopt?
we have,
So moved.
I think we
make it.
did. A
I'll
motion
make
to
it.
adopt,
Second.
motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion on the motion, Ms. Marshall?
on the motion to adopt, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
No.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
On the emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
I think, let me just ask, when does that put it into effect?
But I think then the
Immediately.
ordinance say it has,
Well, why not do it immediately?
no, it's got,
What it does is the ordinance becomes effective immediately, but the owners under it have to comply by January 1st, 2005.
Okay.
Why it should be immediately is so somebody won't try to run out and grab a license that they should have already done by city law anyway.
All right. Go ahead, Ms. Marshall.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
0463, Alderman Witcher.
Call it, please.
This is an ordinance repealing ordinance number 7176, the sign ordinance, and all amendments thereto, replacing North Little Rock Municipal Code, Section 83-1, third and final reading.
Motion for adoption?
Mayor, at this point in time, I have one more amendment that I'd like to make, please.
All right. Just
in-
go ahead and read it. I know it's on third and final, but go ahead and read it so everybody know what it is, Ms. Marshall. Or did you
Read
just read it?
the amendment or?
No, did,
By title?
yeah, just read it one, but make sure,
Just read that.
I want to make sure everybody knows what we're on, Ms. Marshall. Just read it by title,
read the
not the whole
title.
ordinance.
This is an ordinance repealing ordinance number 7176, the sign ordinance, and all amendments thereto, replacing North Little Rock Municipal Code, Section 83-1, third and final reading.
Okay. I
Okay.
think you just did that, but I appreciate doing it again. All right, Alderman Witcher.
All right, Mayor, in Section 83-16, Item H, it is not a change from our existing ordinance. And again, this is one of those items that, my feet aren't set in concrete on, but the existing ordinance...
What page are you on, Alderman?
Well, my draft
Page
doesn't have a
12.
page, Mayor.
Okay.
8316.
8316,
All right.
Section H. It said permits for on-premise signs are to be issued for a period of 1 year. All sign owners are required to renew their sign permits every year prior to January 31st of the year. Any signs not permitted within the month of January of the year shall be classified as abandoned on-premise signs with expired permits are illegal and shall be removed by the sign owner at his expense. I'm proposing to take Section H out. The concept behind it probably was a good concept, but we don't have anyone enforcing it. nor do we have enough staff to enforce an annual permit and check them. And of course, one of the reasonings for having this in the ordinance was also to check the electrical and make sure that they were still safe. We just very simply are not doing that now.
I take that as a motion, is there a second?
No, I have a question.
Well, just a second, let me see if we get a second on
I'll
this.
second it, and we'll
All
get
right.
this,
All
I want
right,
to talk
go ahead.
about it.
That's fine. I don't understand why the city couldn't enforce it. I mean, if we say we have a business license and people don't pay it, do we just let them go? I mean, I don't understand the reasoning for why we've had a law that hasn't been enforced. But if we want to take that out, that's fine, but let's don't take out the part that makes them remove the sign unless it's addressed somewhere else.
It is addressed.
It is addressed somewhere
Yeah,
else about
yeah.
they have to remove the sign and all that.
But that was
Okay.
addressed, but we're not, are we sure we're not doing away with that section with this new sign ordinance?
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Because you got to be careful, because you start revoking.
Let's see. All right, I forget where that is in here. Robert, help me.
While Robert's looking that up, I don't know who's at our controls, but I don't know if anybody else is chilly like I am, but that air conditioner seems to be working.
We removed
Feels good to
Like
me.
it, forget it, that's okay.
Feels you want my coat?
Cold to me.
or to remove them if they...
I'm good.
I'll give you my jacket.
Because we'll get this out of the way, because I got two other questions.
No, y'all may be sitting somewhere different than I am too.
You're right under events.
That's what I'm saying.
And you're in the hot seat, though.
Maybe that's
Mayor,
why.
you're
I'm
the
cool.
mayor, you can have it cut back.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Robert? Question is, do we do something we don't want to do if Alderman Witcher's amendment's adopted?
He's taken out the annual permit fee.
Yes.
And if the sign is abandoned, then there is a section where it is required to be removed.
Yeah, just turn it off.
Probably 8317 would probably cover that, but I know it's in here, but it's a long code. You're removing all of 8316, is that what you were saying?
You found it, our city attorney?
8316H.
H.
Yes, if you look at the definition of abandoned sign, it means that abandoned sign would be any sign that doesn't represent a bona fide business, and we can require them to remove it. If you remove this, then if you don't get a permit, which not required to anyway under this amendment, we can't tell them to take it down because they didn't get a permit. So if somebody does not have a bona fide business representing the sign, then we can order its removal if it's your Section 8's amended out.
Okay.
And I know we added the structure as well as the sign. That's been an issue,
Yes.
and that's in here somewhere.
And if you want to know where it's under 83-15 that says all abandoned signs and sign structures not removed by owner after due notice may be removed by the city. Upon completion of the work, the city shall file and have a lien upon real estate for the cost of removing the sign, which we do for cutting grass.
Yeah, Section A.
Okay, so we can do this and not mess up that.
Yes.
Let's vote.
Now, and this is an optional item, and as I said, we need to either enforce it and
Well,
follow
I'd rather
through
leave
with
it
it.
in and try, and whatever enforcement we get is something more than, with this in there, then it's very specific to that code officer, or whoever's supposed to be checking signs, that this is the law. Now, if we take this out,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Alderman.
if we take
We'll
it,
do the best we can with what we have, and you leave it in, we're gonna do the best we can. If we're not doing good enough, we'll have reasons why, and we can figure out how to fix it if we need to.
it's your call, 'cause
Alderman? it's up to
Hey,
you.
are there any other?
I got a couple of things I want to talk
Well,
about.
let's
Okay,
go
all
ahead
right,
and deal
all
with
right.
this.
What deal with this?
I'd like to withdraw them, please.
All right,
Okay.
motion's withdrawn, second, I assume, is going along with that.
Yep.
All right, next item.
Alderman Witcher, the doing away totally with pole signs in C1 and C2. What happens to a business at Park Hill? We've got one monument sign and all these pole signs, for instance. The banks have all these pole signs, and So we tell the new bank that builds one, he can't have a pole sign, he's got to have one down below. I got a little concerned with it. If you can, maybe you can walk me through why we want to outlaw pole signs.
Probably one of the best examples I can give is here on Main Street. Twin City Bank, which has a monument sign adjacent to its trailer on a temporary lease, generally has the same type of sign throughout central Arkansas. And it is in fact one of the most successful and fastest growing banks in central Arkansas. So, one of the philosophies behind having a large pole sign is, well, I need to advertise my business so people can find me. Well, generally, most destination businesses, individuals know generally where they are, and all they need is just something to tell them that we're there. The Wicks and Wax, I guess, is a good example. While that sign might be a little taller than the general monument sign, that's a great example of a small business who has succeeded over a long period of time, while other businesses have come and gone through our city.
It's built 3 foot out on the right of way.
Well,
And too tall.
And
I guess my concern is that Twin City Bank location is on basically a 300-foot lot because there's nothing else on that piece of property. When you get into Park Hill, I'm going to speak about Park Hill specifically, you got businesses sitting on 50-foot lots. And what do we do about one that's already got a pole sign up and it changes hands?
As long, and I'm gonna need some help from Robert, but my opinion is, as long as that sign is a usable sign and in good working order, that the face can be changed out. Robert, is that correct?
All of Park Hill on JFK is C3, so this wouldn't apply to Park Hill. Most of JFK is C3, most of McCain is C3. C1 and C2 were commercial in or near neighborhoods, and the idea was have a little more subtle signage where we're living, and then get into a commercial district and have the poles. That was the philosophy
Okay,
behind
I
it.
don't have a problem with this now, so we got that covered. You got a problem when you got C1, C2, 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 C3.
Yes.
C2, C2, C3.
Yes.
And you've got quite a bit of that. And you've got it all up and down JFK. Forget Park Hill, when we go all the way to McCain there. Virtually everything there, except a couple stretches of R1, unbelievably, are still there on JFK. Everything else is basically C3. And so they're going to be able to have pole signs. So what we're going to do is we're going to end up zoning a lot of property as it comes in under C3 instead of C2, because they want that latitude to have that difference in sign.
Well, I guess, on a long-term basis, Mr. Gibson, where I would like to be would be to monument signs through all the C-class zones on a long-term basis. You go out Highway 10 west of the interstate, you have all monument signs out that way. You go into Maumelle and they have monument signs.
You convinced me. I'm okay with this.
Germantown, you can't say that those businesses are struggling. They have monument signs.
Last item.
Okay.
Awning signs. I don't understand this going from 50% to 25% of the, let's just take the old-fashioned park cleaners, which we're trying to get a business into now. And it's going to be 3 businesses. They're going to share, it's going to be 1 awning. Maybe 3 awnings, but big enough to have something on them. If you have that they can't have more than 25%, that really cuts down what you can get on that 25-foot building space there.
Okay, and one of the answers to that is, under our present ordinance as well as the new ordinance, you have an option of 10% of the face of the building or 25% of the top of the awning. You have one or the other, but not both.
So they don't have 50% of the awning?
Well, no, I'm sorry, under the present ordinance, you have 50% of the awning and 10% of the face. And 10% of the face of the building, a 10 by 50 building, and I'd like rather have that sign than a sign on the front
But
of
you
an
got a
awning.
case where you got they're doing the three things on the building. They've chosen to.
Well, they're three different businesses.
And there's going to have, but they're 25-foot wide spaces. So if we say you can only do 25% of the awning, you got a fourth of 25 foot, which is 6 foot to get their name of their business on that awning.
Yeah. See, one of the examples we had, Robert, I'm sorry, Mayor, may I call him Robert? We were talking about an awning today, just cite him an example, the big yellow awning.
Well, the one we were cited was out on Maumelle Boulevard. It was a wall-size awning on a rental place. But that could be treated as a wall sign because it was vertical anyway. But it would be
And
10% of the
it-
front of that building could be signage.
Right, and it covers almost that entire
It did.
awning from end to end, and that building's what, 40,
40, 50 foot
40
wide.
feet? You know, the sign's 40
20
feet
feet.
long.
But it's a different business in there now.
Yeah.
That's changed out.
But why go from 50% to 25% of the awning is my question. I guess,
A reduction in size. You know, again, this is not one of those.
is this negotiable with you? Because I think
Yes, it is.
that is a major drop in the size of what you can have there. Particularly if you're in, not all businesses are 50 foot wide.
Do you have a motion, Alderman?
Well, I'd like to just take that where it says 20, to take it from 20 to 25%.
To 50.
Leave it at 50.
50.
There's a motion to that effect. Is there
I'll
a
second.
second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on that amendment?
Okay, that would be in section 83, let's see, awnings,
8326.
83
It's
and
back there
26.
somewhere. I don't have any trouble with the billboard signs and that kind of stuff.
Okay, and G, 8326, item G, shall not exceed 50% of the service.
You got that, Ms. Marshall?
Yes, sir.
All right, the motion made and seconded to change that from 25, that section that Alderman Witcher just mentioned, from 25 to 50, which means that it's being left the same on the motion.
On the motion, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Alderman Thomas?
I guess that I'm concerned here too that we always want new businesses, and if they come in to the city, they'll be restricted on signs that the existings are not. So I think that put them at a disadvantage, and that's one of the reasons that I'm going to vote against it. And also, I think that we're, in several places, we're reducing the size of the sign substantially, and I just can't vote for that.
Alderman?
Mr. Thomas, I guess, Ms. Robinson and I have talked openly over a period of time about the redoing when Highway Department redoes Broadway. And one of the things that we have talked about is doing an overlay district and having all monument signs on Broadway. So that should probably take care of, provided it passes, that should probably take care of a concern that you have to enhance Broadway. I wish we had done that on Camp Robinson from 47th to Levy. I wish that we had done that on Pike from downtown out. But we haven't done those yet. But I did not have enough foresight when we redid Camp Robinson to do that. And I'm sorry that I did.
I'm sorry. More discussion on the,
Okay, all right, Mayor, I think we had a couple of people that wanted to speak
right,
on
I
this.
was gonna get the council finished and then
Okay.
to see if we had any other amendments or any other comments, and then I was gonna open it up for comments on where we were then at the time. Alderman Height?
Vestal or Height? Okay. This sign ordinance, there's a lot of good things in here, but the main thing that concerns me is because of the inconsistencies in the way we've got our commercial zoning zoned. C1, C2 across the street from C3, or be several C3s lined up together, and across the street from that would be a C1 or a C2 or maybe a C4. And since the area is particularly up in JFK, and Robert, help me, what's the zoning out on from North Hills to on McCain, from North Hills Boulevard out to
It's
East
all C3.
Is it all C3 from that point on out?
Once you get towards Fairfax, it's C4, and that wouldn't apply either.
Okay, all right. But in the rest of the city, though, there's inconsistencies in the zoning. You have C1, 2 mixed in with C3s and 4s, is that
Right.
correct?
And we've tried to, in areas where it looks inconsistent, we have initiated a few efforts to try to make it more consistent. We'd be happy to try that if you'd like.
Alderman Witcher referred to out Highway 10 over in the Little Rock side of the river and out in Maumelle, but those were newly developed areas that did not have any businesses in them whatsoever, is that correct? And they came in when the new businesses were required to put in monument signs. Is that your knowledge?
It was an overlay created. I think they tried to transfer or transition into that appearance scheme, but I don't work there. I can't recall any issues of taking down pole signs and putting up ground signs.
Well, I'm just gonna, that one section about the pole signs in C1 and C2 with those zones being across the street or side by a side of a C3 or a C4, I'm opposed to this ordinance. But if we could change that down the road somehow or another, then I could be supportive of it. But in its present form, I'm going to have to vote no on that, just because of the no pole signs and or freestanding signs in C1 and C2s.
Okay.
Alderman Witcher?
Mayor, Mr. Height, we can, in fact, address that now by adding C3 to 8325.
second that.
That would take care of your problem, wouldn't
Is
it?
that a motion?
Yes, it is.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
You can go for that, can't you, Mr. Height?
No, I don't think it
Well,
can.
it takes care of your problem.
It doesn't take, what happened, the reason I'm opposed to it is you've got existing businesses with a pole sign, and a new business that's already there comes in and had to put in a monument sign. They got an unfair advantage. How many years is it going to be through normal attrition that the pole signs would come down?
10 or 15 years.
Yeah, so 10 or 15 years we're going to have of trying to attract businesses to that area, and they have an unfair advantage on advertising.
How can it be an unfair advantage?
Well, you can see a pole sign a lot further away than you can see a monument sign.
If they're in front of it, that's the biggest problem.
But if we work toward that end, it will change, Mr. Height.
I
It's,
just
this same way dog ordinances work,
understand that.
Okay.
I'm
We
not
have a
supporting.
motion made and seconded on an amendment. Any further discussion on the amendment?
Yes. Mr. Height, will you vote for the ordinance with this amendment in it?
Removing pole signs,
No.
No,
Adding
C3.
C3.
adding C3 to that.
Call the roll and find out.
Or C4, C3 and 4.
It still has an unfair advantage to new businesses going in the zones that are allowed a pole sign. So the answer to your question is no. I'm staying firm on my beliefs.
And you said no?
No.
Okay, so call a roll on the amendment.
All right, on the amendment, Ms. Marshall?
On the amendment, Gibson,
No.
Yielding,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Thomas,
No.
Vestal,
Yes.
Height,
No.
and Witcher.
Yes.
Was that 4?
That's 4.
I'll vote for it, Ms. Marshall. That makes that pass then.
Well, it changes. I mean, if we're going to do, this means we got to go back to the drawing board because you got more than one place that you're, I mean, I'm not going to vote for it now, so
Okay, well, and I'll be happy to hold it,
you must
So-
say so, because I'm not going to vote for it now.
so we can look at it.
We can still pass.
Alderman, if you want, I'll withdraw my vote to change it. I don't,
May I ask Mr. Gibson,
floor is yours.
can you tell me what your particular situation
I don't
is?
want to
at
add
this-
C3 to it.
Okay. Why not?
Why not? I've worked very hard to keep us from going to C4 zones. I don't want another reason to make something C4 simply because someone can have a sign that they can't have in C3. The things that can go on in C4 are things I fought hard against in neighborhood. But I don't want someone to come in and say, well, I got to have C4 to be able to have this sign, and so they can have the sign, but along the same way, they can have a whole myriad of things that I don't want in the neighborhood. And you know how I feel about C4.
Yes, sir, I do.
And I don't want to slide. C3 is a zone that we very tightly have taken uses that wanted to go into C4 and didn't give them C4. We slid them to C3, and we slid them to C3 because we didn't want it to end up being a used car lot and the list of pawn shop, a lot of other things that we didn't want there. That once you zone that property C4, so that person can have this pole sign so they can compete with everybody else that's up and down the street, then you got the same thing. Once you've zoned that property, it's that property from now on. And I don't want, C3 is a zone that's been very specific. And it allows everything in C1 and C2, but it doesn't allow the things that can go into C3.
Well, what if we added C4 under as a monument sign?
Is that a motion?
Well, no, I'm posing the question. Would that take care of your concern?
That would do it.
That means that we're going to tell the next Home Depot or Lowe's that comes in, they got to have a monument sign. Now, Lowe's has monument signs, but they also have one that you can see forever. Home Depot has one that you can see forever. Walmart has one you can see forever. Just
I think we need to look at this a little bit longer.
I do too.
One of the things I'll tell you, Art.
The pole signs, as I told you earlier, my very first thing, had a concern for me that we were outlawing them in C1 and C2 because I would love to see us get there. But I'm not sure I'm willing to give up the rest of this ordinance if we don't do that. And I think if we take the pole sign change out, and just continue to allow them and start working towards that. I don't know how you work towards it. You do it with overlay districts, how you do it. Don't do it in the sign ordinance, do it in an overlay district. And then when you do that, then everybody has to conform in a period of time. And there's some things in downtown that's there, and they're grandfathered in, and it makes it very difficult for the next person coming in. But the overlay district takes care of it in the future. The guy who wants to have a store on some corner that used to be a Goodyear store that had a pole-mounted sign, he can have a sign, but the guy next door to him can't. And so let's take out that section of this ordinance, pass the rest of it. Do away with the deletion of pole signs in C1 and C2, and let's work on that as a separate issue, because I think that's the only sticking issue on this whole thing. There's an awful lot of good in this thing. And I'm not willing to give it up for that.
Okay.
It's your pleasure, Alderman.
I have another.
Just a second, Alderman Vestal.
Robert, let me ask a question.
Yes, sir.
Hey, the old HQ property that the Furniture Road's moving into,
Yes.
is that C3 or C4?
It's C5.
C5? Okay. So they're gonna have to they do not have to.
No.
They had to go for a sign variance. They were approved for a variance recently.
Okay.
The rocking chair.
Yes.
All right, what's your pleasure, Alderman?
Okay. All right. With all this conversation done, Mayor, would you consider withdrawing your vote? Well, all right. All right. As one of those who voted in the majority on the amendment, I would like to recall the amendment.
Now move for reconsideration. Is that
Yes.
what you're doing? Is there a second to that?
Second.
On the motion to reconsider?
Now explain that, explain what we're doing here now, because there's so much confusion here. Just tell me what you're doing.
Okay. At this point, Mr. Thomas, we had passed with the mayor's support, adding C3 to monument signs section. at this point, we are withdrawing C3. And then I think we're going to address pole signs after we do this.
On the motion, Ms. Marshall?
On the motion, Gibson.
This is the motion to recall it.
Recall.
Yes.
Reconsider, and I vote yes to reconsider.
Yielding.
No.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
All right, we're back where we started. We're reconsidering that now. Do you have a motion, Alderman?
Well, let's go back to my very first point that I had some time ago on one of these notes in addressing pole signs in C1 and C2. Now, 8325 says one ground-mounted sign per premise.
Wait a minute, let me just make sure I'm right. On the motion to reconsider, which was adopted, now that we're reconsidering that issue
You're
that
right.
we...
You're right.
Is there any further debate on the issue of adding C3?
To Section 83-25.
So we're going to vote
Yes.
on that again. That's where we are.
Yeah.
Alderman Yield.
I want to comment on that. I understand what Alderman Gibson's saying. However, there's another way to deal with this, and that will not keep everyone moving to C4, and will also not prevent people like Walmart or Lowe's or some huge shopping center that's on 40 acres of ground or 20 acres, from having a big sign. Although you could have a huge shopping center without a big sign, and I can take you to numerous places around the country that have them, and those people are making millions of dollars. But if that's what the problem is, the zoning ordinance has been going through a lot of changes, and we've been working on that, and Alderman Witcher's been working on that, and we could certainly take care of those problems in the zoning ordinance. But if we don't do something, if this city doesn't do anything, we'll never get to a situation where it looks nice, like out on Highway 10 or other places in Maumelle, and everybody knows where they're going, and they can see the sign, and, it's not that big a deal. We'll never get there if we don't make some inroad towards that. And whether that's just starting with a C1 or C2, or the C1, 2, and 3, if we don't do it, I think this is the most important thing in the ordinance. I mean, you mentioned all those good things. Well, tell me what's better than what we're trying to do as far as beautification.
Right now, the vote before us is whether or not to vote to add C3 to...
Right, and that's what I was commenting on.
And so, that goes a little bit beyond what I think is before us right now.
Well, the last part did.
Any
But I'm
further
through.
discussion on whether or not to add C3?
Remove C3.
Well, no, actually, we're
Okay,
reconsidering that.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
So let me just try to explain how I understand it. We're reconsidering that, so in reconsideration, we're voting again on the principal motion to amend, which was to add C3. So a vote for is to do the same thing that we did before we reconsidered. A vote against is to change and leave C3 out of the addition. Is everybody clear?
No is to not approve the C3
That's
addition.
correct. No is to not approve a C3 vote. That's my interpretation. Call the roll, Ms. Marshall.
Gibson.
No.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
No.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
No.
Height.
No.
And Witcher.
No.
Motion carries. We're back to where we were before we put C3 in. Now we're in discussion. Any motions?
Could we hear from people in the audience and how?
Well, sure. I just want to make sure we get our motions done before before we're ready for a vote, assuming Alderman Witcher wants to call it for a vote, then that's when I thought it'd be appropriate for us to see if anybody wants to comment. Alderman, right now we don't have anything for us. What's your pleasure, Alderman?
I think we need to have, there's a couple people who'd like to speak. I
Well,
think we
and
need to
I-
let them do that, because at that point, we can try to work through this C1, C2 issue, pole versus monument signs. I think that's the only sticking point left.
I think at this point, somebody needs to explain to them where we are.
We aren't anywhere different than where we started, I don't believe.
No, we're not. We're the same place we were.
So that's where we are.
Well, they need to know that.
Well, you know, Alderman Witcher, it's your legislation, and I fully intend to let people make a comment. I'm just, make sure I understand where we're going, or where Alderman Witcher wants to go tonight.
Mayor, if I may address this to Mr. Gibson. All right, in Section 83-25, signs permitted in C1 and C2 are the following signs. One ground-mounted sign per premise. And then, in addition to the above allowed signs, the owner may use one of the following: a wall or a mansard sign, one under canopy sign, one projecting sign, one awning sign, one marquee sign, and incidental signs.
Mr. Witcher, you even have a little bit of problem in 8325C. You can have this monument sign, this ground-mounted monument sign, but it can't be in the site triangle.
That's correct.
So you're creating another somewhat of a problem with that, because the person who is on the corner lot has some real problems as to where he can get his ground-mounted sign placed.
Setback of 5 feet from any property line measured from the closest edge of the sign.
But what if you're built already up on the property line, i.e. Red Door Gallery?
Then you'll have a wall or projecting
I.e.
sign.
Then you have to go to a wall or a projected sign like we do downtown now.
Projecting sign goes out like this.
Very good.
Okay.
So he would not have the option of having a pole sign, which they have now.
Well,
Right.
or downtown, you couldn't have a pole sign with the building next door.
We can draft this now if we want to, or do we want to, where are we?
We're on third reading. It's his ordinance. It's just, I've just got to work through. As I told you, I had a problem in the start with the pole signs and the inconsistencies that one can have them and one can't. One can have, can't. And we got way too many of them on Park Hill, but they're there. The poles are even already there. And you've got 6 businesses up there that are for lease. Property, more than 6 if you count the B&S property and Fashion Park property and all the Lazenby property. And they're working hard trying to get tenants in those things. They've got pole-mounted signs out in front of them now. And so if they have to take those pole-mounted signs down, then they end up with wall signs.
Well, those are C3, so that wouldn't be affected by this ordinance.
Okay? Don't have a problem with it. But as you go further, well, the things below the hill are C1 and C2.
Alderman, what's your pleasure?
He's going to slide property into C3, but if that's your pleasure.
Mayor, I want to call it.
All right. Motion made to adopt, is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the legislation as it currently presented? Any motions?
Don't you have somebody who wants to speak?
Well, yeah, I'm just going to, when no one wants to speak, Alderman, then I'm going to, any other council member want to make any motions or
Not
any?
at this point.
Okay.
After they speak, I probably will.
All right, Alderman Vestal, and then I am going to open up the floor.
Murray, I fully appreciate what you're trying to do with the monument sign. This whole C1, C2, C3 issue is concerning to me. Also, those existing businesses that already have the pole signs, it's going to be difficult in a long-term process getting them changed. I would, consider something more of a incentive to get them to put up a monument sign as opposed to mandatorily let's go in there and knock it down in a long-term fashion, so that if we do it on an incentive basis, maybe they'll be more inclined to do it sooner than the 15 or 20 years, however long that sign's going to be up. And that's just my opinion. I think it's a lot easier to catch bees with honey than it is with vinegar.
Okay, microphone's open. Anyone wants to comment on the legislation as it currently exists?
I don't know. Unfortunately.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm Terry Harder, representing the North Rock Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber, and I do apologize because as I well know, as y'all know, you've had public hearings on this already. But it came to my attention last week and then a lot of phone calls today that some of the things Mr. Gibson's brought up is, well, I guess the best way to say is, every place I go in this city and around the state, it's easy and it's good to do business in North Little Rock. We try to work with the small businessmen as much as the large. And I know what you're trying to do, Murray, excuse me. Without a doubt, you've got your best intent for the city. As far as Chenal Valley and Highway 10, it's been one of those areas that's been developed as it went. It hasn't been here for, 100 years now. I think we just had our centennial. So with that in mind, a lot of our businesses have called me saying, I'd like to do a renew sign, I'd like to redo it, a pole sign, but they're having problems with saying, I want to have to do a monument sign, especially as you say, a corner. Wicks and Wax, I passed it a while ago. It is encroached, but believe it or not, there was a van parked in front of it, and I couldn't see Wicks or Wax. Couldn't even see it. Now, we just had about 25,000 people in our city here, and say 50% of them or more were from out of town. I'd hate to know that a lot of people were saying, let's go to wherever, and going down the road, and all of a sudden, 2 lanes they go across it, whether it be East Broadway, JFK, say, oh, there it is, I just saw it behind us. I think it's a safety hazard to some extent. I think it does put a disadvantage to some of the new businesses that are coming into town. I think it puts a disservice to the Signs First and the Curtin Sign Company, some of these people here who make a living in our city. Do I think it's the right thing to do? I think through attrition, maybe you can't accomplish this somehow, some way. But sit there right now and tell this person that he can't have a pole sign, that you've got to put a monument sign up. I heard from the Twin City Bank people today. I've heard from the Ashley companies today. I've heard from people who are in our chamber that says, it would be a great idea if we started all over, but we can't start all over. We're dealt with the cards we've got now. Let's make it better, but let's just don't go randomly having a mounted sign, monument sign you should call it, and then a pole sign. And then even a pole sign back to something that you can't see that maybe be a safety hazard. Kids playing behind. We have on JFK every year the Halloween for every business. How many kids would then not be seen by cars going up down a 4-lane road if we start putting these monument signs out? It is a safety hazard, whether you like it or not. It's pretty, I agree with that 100%. But let's look at what we're really doing completely. Are we being unfair to the small business people? Is it safety conscious? And then if it's line of sight, can it be seen by people who are visiting our town? And again, then, if not all, more than anything, is it something our city is trying to do to create business? Is it friendly to business people? And that's where I'm coming from as much as anything. If after you consider these objects, I'd like to sit down with you, Murray, and yes, we've talked about it 2 or 3 times at length. There's a couple of issues. I think you've got a great ordinance here, but I think it's something that could be worked out and maybe even consider to, I don't know, maybe we could look at that C1 and C2 like you're talking about a little bit closer, okay? Thank you very much.
Microphone's still open.
Thank you. I'm Jerry Hodge. I own Signs First, which is located at the 15th Street exit on I-30, and I've been doing business in North Little Rock for about 15 years now. And obviously, signs are near and dear to my heart and my livelihood, so I'm very interested in this, and I've talked to Murray to some extent about it. We in the sign business view signs as advertising, pure and simple. It's, in our opinion, the best form of advertising you can get, because it's right there where your business is and visible to everyone that comes by. As far as the sign ordinance, I have some questions about several things. I'm not going to go into all of them because I don't want to take that much time. But, some of the inconsistencies bother me a little bit from the standpoint of things that are in the existing sign ordinance. The changeable copy sign, for instance, the 15-second, but yet there's signs all over the place. The electronic message signs that are changing constantly. I have a concern about size of signs. It's mentioned in here, for instance, a real estate size sign is 16 feet on any real estate property, 16 square feet, which basically is a 4x4 sign. In most instances, that's probably perfectly acceptable. But we do happen to do a lot of 4x8 signs for property developers where you're doing a subdivision where half of the sign or more is taken up with a plot plan showing where the lots are. It would be very difficult to do that on a 4x4 sign. I want to address this renewing the license annually that Murray tried to bring up earlier. As far as I know, no other city around here does that. And to me, the justification for having an annual, or not having an annual, but having the license fee in the beginning is certainly there, obviously, to make sure it's the sign people, myself, and the customer conform to the sign ordinance. However, annually paying that same fee over and over is just an additional tax. And if I can put my other hat on as a small businessman, believe me, it's hard enough running a small business without an additional tax every year on something that you get no benefit from. Because just because the sign's there, I'm paying another tax. I realize that's another source of revenue to the city, but I just don't see the justification at all for that. And like I say, I know of no other town that does that. So I personally would like to see that taken out. Freestanding signs, that was the pole signs, the common term for it. I have a problem with that also, but I think that's already been, I think Terry addressed that very well from the standpoint that the visibility aspect is certainly greater. Also, from an aesthetic standpoint, kind of appreciate what Murray's trying to achieve, but I think there's places for both. I think just a broad sweep of taking that aspect of the signage away is a mistake. The one thing that I want to specifically address is one of the last things in the ordinance, and that's the limitation, which is in 8326 on page 21, if you have the page numbered version, and that's limiting commercial signs basically to 120 square feet. Now, 120 square feet sounds large. Believe me, if you put a 10 by 12 sign in this room, it would look huge. If you put that same sign on 667 167, it would look like the proverbial postage stamp compared to a lot of those signs, because from the signage standpoint, you not only have to look at the aspect of people standing directly under it looking at it, but cars going by at 60 miles an hour. They only have a very limited time to see the sign, which is advertising. So consequently, to me, that is a restriction. I don't know if this could be split in some fashion. Obviously, 120 square feet would be more than adequate on Main Street. But on I-30 or on 67 167 or on I-40, to me, it's totally unrealistic. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find many of the larger signs that are 120 square feet or less. So that's my comments. Obviously, as a sign person, I'm very concerned about that we, make something that's acceptable to our customers, to our people, to our business people, as well as the sign business. Thank you.
I'm Jasper Burton. I'm with Curidan Sign Company. I spoke with you at the public hearing. I appreciate the opportunity to speak again. I'll be very brief. Planners always want to make the highest and best use of the property, and the property y'all are regulating is business property, commercial property. Costs a lot more than a lot of residential in a lot of areas. You're restricting the businessman's ability to utilize that property to its highest and best use. Sign codes should be designed to enhance the economic vitality of its business district. I mean, we're regulating business areas here, not residential areas. they should increase the economic vitality of the business district or increase driver safety. If you can do that, you'll have more active small businesses. You won't have as many franchises to small business. You're regulating these signs down to the size where the franchises have the advantage because their logos are instantly recognizable. But the mom and pops don't have that opportunity. We need to stop relocating to more visible urban areas. You've got urban sprawl that's just going to continue. If you enhance the business vitality, you'll have higher sales tax, you'll have better maintained businesses, you'll have better paid employees, you'll have more diverse businesses, and you'll have fewer accidents and lower medical costs. Focus your ordinances on enhancing the business community. This is areas that are already regulated and already zoned, and don't pass an ordinance that you don't enforce. Because if you're going to go ahead and put the renewal fee in there, then you need to figure on something, because we like sign ordinances, believe it or not. The sign industry recognizes that they're needed. But we don't want an ordinance that's not enforced completely. So you need to just keep those items in mind. I think this is a bad ordinance, and I want to encourage you to vote against it. Thank you.
Alderman Witcher? Call the roll.
Please.
Call the roll. I'm sorry, Mr. Hard.
Thank you. My name is James Ard. I have an eye problem, and when you have too small a sign out there for me to be driving down even Maumelle, it's hard for me to locate a business. When you got a larger sign, and the pole signs are a good example, I can locate it a lot easier. And I'm not the only one that has an eye problem. Also, I'd like to make a comment about charging for them each year. That's a good revenue, that's true. But why tax us to death? I'm a small business. I don't have a sign up. I work out of my truck. But Murray's got some good ideals, but let's don't fix it where people are not happy with what's coming off. Like they've already gave the example, pole sign here and then a small sign, just because you've already got it. How about the filling station signs that have their gasoline? Is that considered a pole sign, and are they still going to get to keep them so we know how much gas is? Thank you very much.
Call the roll, Ms. Marshall.
Gibson.
On the ordinance?
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
No.
Vestal.
No.
Height.
No.
And Witcher.
Yes.
On the emergency?
No, it hadn't passed yet, Ms. Marshall.
We're waiting on the mayor.
Yeah, it's in my lap.
Okay.
I think I've got a line item veto, don't I?
That is correct.
All right, looks like I'm gonna have to work with you, Murray, on this. I'm gonna go ahead and vote yes, but I'm gonna work with you on doing some of the things with that legislation between now and Saturday that might help address some of the problems.
We can sit down over turkey.
Over turkey there? Okay. Mayor votes yes.
Might want to invite the press, by the way.
What's the effective date of this that you had?
We've got to vote on the
Emergency clause.
emergency clause.
January 1.
Yeah, that's fine.
Move the amendment clause to say January.
All right, there's a second. Motion made and seconded that the emergency clause be amended to read January 1st. Any further discussion on that motion to amend? Ms. Marshall?
On the motion to amend, Gibson. Yes. Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Can I have a question? You're going to make some changes in this ordinance between now and when the emergency, we get to vote on those changes. So why should we put in an emergency clause if we're going to make some changes in it by what, next council meeting?
Well, what you get to vote on whether or not you want to override the mayor's veto. That's what you get to vote on. if I choose to veto some of it. That's just a possibility.
So my yes vote would be for.
To make it
Right now,
effective
your vote
January
is to
1st,
make it effective January 1st
instead of immediately.
instead of immediately.
Do that.
Height votes yes.
Witcher.
Witcher votes yes.
Down
All
there.
right, any further discussion? Next item.
Thank you, gentlemen and ma'am.
0468, Mayor Hayes.
Let's call it.
This is an ordinance amending ordinance number 7577 to fix a user charge for users of the wastewater project of Municipal Improvement District Number 2 of Sherwood, Arkansas, describing other matters pertaining thereto. Third and final reading.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Move to adoption.
Motion made and seconded on the motion.
On the motion, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
On the emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding. Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Let's go to new business.
004104, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
This is a resolution certifying the amount of liens to the Pulaski County Tax Collector for placement on the Pulaski County Tax Roll for 5107 Allen and 709 West
Wait a minute.
First Street.
Wait a
That's
minute.
104.
I'm sorry,
Need to read 109.
109.
Right there.
right here. 109, here we go. Sorry about that.
All right.
A resolution authorized the mayor and city attorney to initiate condemnation proceedings against certain property located next to the flood wall in the city of North Little Rock.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Basically, Robert, let's come up to the microphone. We've been trying to negotiate with the owners, and I say owners, very broadly because there are a variety of them, and offered, more than more than the appraised value. I think we were offering somewhere
13.2.
which we had been led to believe would be acceptable. But I think, and I'll let Robert categorize it because of the difficulty of the multiplicity of ownership, that has not been able to conclude that. So, unless you want to add anything, Robert, this appears to be the only way that we can reasonably acquire title to this property.
That's correct. We've been trying for 2 or 3 years, and I think they had been offered, or someone had discussed with them a much higher price when the aquarium was being discussed. And then this property we offered several years back, and the lawyer we've dealt with has given up trying to get consensus with the family members. We hope to expand our riverfront park with this small acquisition. It's a very small piece of
Sort of
land.
in the middle, isn't it?
Yes, it's about 5,000 square feet.
Who are the owners?
This is the James Steele family, and Joe Smith actually has been dealing with the lawyer, and I might need him up here to name some of the names, but
How many do you
Steele
think
family,
there-
I think there's 7 that they're trying to get agreement with.
And the name was, I didn't hear the name.
Steele.
Steele. And where's the property at again?
It's next to the flood wall, immediately west of the Sandman operation. We've paved most of the park area there for the boat launch area. Public Works was recently going to pave the remainder, and I reminded them we didn't own that property yet, and so they did not.
Any further questions?
Did I miss this? But what about Lot 6 and Lot 4 and Lot 8, 7, and there's another 6?
We own everything
We
south
own
there.
everything except 5, is that correct?
Everything south. There's a sliver that R.C. Coburn has that's adjoining this, and we've made an offer to him, and we've not had a complete no.
We may be coming back, so.
Maybe.
Our goal is to acquire most, if not everything.
South of the wall.
South of the wall.
Okay.
And we still have some more we're negotiating with right now, too, in addition. Any other questions on the motion?
On the motion, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
R 04110, Alderman Gibson.
Call it, please.
This is a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an amendment to the United States Conference of Mayors Deferred Compensation Program.
Move for adoption, and for the second, I need to bring Mr. Sisson up to explain this.
All right, is there a second to that?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, Alderman.
Mr. Sisson can explain it, but I think you should start off with telling how many members would be eligible.
In this pension plan, a third of our employees, I mean, it's a deferred compensation where the employees put their own money in this, and it's tax-free until they draw it out. There's 276 of our employees participate in this particular
With
deferred
about
compensation plan.
11 million.
They have $11 million in there. In the past, they can't draw it out until they retire, and that's unless they have an emergency. So this provision would allow them to make loans on it. If they default on the loan, then the money comes out of their deferred compensation. It's similar to a business 401k, or 403b that the teachers have.
But it's only when certain events occur that they can borrow that money, is that correct?
Well, they can borrow it on any event. What you're probably referring to is emergency situations. They can pull money out now if they have an emergency, which is defined as sickness, something real serious emergency. But with this, if they have, they can borrow up to 50% of their balance they have in there, with a maximum of $50,000.
On the motion?
Mayor, there is one thing, if you want, there probably needs...
There's an X, there's somewhere I need to fill in.
There's a next to the last page on Exhibit B, there's a little box, if we want them to be able to purchase residence, you mark that box.
And I think they should be able to.
I would think
Particularly, that's probably going to be the main reason if someone needs it, to be able to get a qualified loan, buy a house. So I would amend in that we check the box on the...
I think it's 15, here it is.
Well, I don't have a numbered page, but it's the next to the last page.
Next to last page. No,
Check the box.
Check
the
Only
box.
one box?
The only one
Yes,
All
box.
right, motion made to check the box. Is there a
Seconded.
second? On the motion to check the box.
On the motion to check the box, Gibson.
Exhibit B, item 15.
Yielding. Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Box is checked. Now on the motion to adopt
Adopt as
as
amended.
checked box amended. On the motion.
On the motion, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Let's go to ordinances.
00469, Alderman Gibson.
Call it in on 69, 70, and 71. I'd ask that Alderman, what's your name? Yielding be added as the
Without
co-sponsor.
objection, add Alderman Yielding as co-sponsors
Would you
to
call
those
69,
ordinances.
please?
This is an ordinance approving a hillside cut in Park Hill Addition in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. First reading.
Move to suspend rules, place on the second reading.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
This is an ordinance approving a hillside cut in Park Hill Addition in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Second reading.
It's been read second time, Alderman.
Move to suspend rules, place on its third reading.
On the motion? Oh, excuse me, is there a second? On the
Second.
motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
This is an ordinance approving a hillside cut in Park Hill Addition in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Third and final reading.
On the question?
On the question, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
On the emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
What are we doing here, Alderman?
Well, I'd like to call 471. This, a developer wants to take down the existing 1, 2, 3, 4 buildings there from Robinson Paint Store building all the way back to the electric substation. The hillside cut lines it up with the already cut back that we've done at the electric department substation.
Where does that attach to?
That's attached to 69. And so it's, you can see the area that, it's the funny markings, which is the hillside cut area, but it's You would know it. It's a Robinson Paint Store building. There's a beauty shop there. There's a fashion store and something else. And those 4 buildings, they're going to tear that down, and I believe they're going to build a 16,400 square foot business center. Instead of having 5 entrances into it, we're going to have 2. So it will be basically continue the theme that starts at North Park Mall and moves on. The interesting part, this property was owned C1.
So this is north of North Park Mall?
No.
It's
No,
south
it's
of
across
North-
the
it's
street
South
from-
of our
Okay, south.
substation.
I'm with you.
Across the
Post
street from the old post
substation.
office.
Yeah, south of
Yeah.
North,
Yeah.
south of, the...
Post office.
Yeah, the post office.
And a nice new pole sign.
Next item?
Not a pole sign, but a
Three stands.
C3. Where are we?
We're on, I think we just adopted 69. We're
Did
ready
we
for the
adopt
next one.
69?
Yes.
Can we jump to 71 and cover the same issue and then come back and get 70?
It's fine. Without objection, call 0471.
Within,
Okay, did we do the emergency on this?
yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
This is an ordinance rezoning certain property located at 4525 JFK Boulevard in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas, from C1 to C3 zone by amending ordinance number 3171 of the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. First reading.
The Moose Pen rules placed on the second reading.
Second.
On the motion?
On the motion, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding. Yes. Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
This is an ordinance rezoning certain property located at 4525 JFK Boulevard in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas, from C1 to C3 zone by amending ordinance number 3171 of the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Second reading.
And Moose Pen rules placed on third reading.
Second.
On the motion?
On the motion, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
This is an ordinance rezoning certain property located at 4525 JFK Boulevard in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas, from C1 to C3 zone by amending ordinance number 3171 of the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Third and final reading.
Alderman Vestal?
Martin, why is this going to be going for a C3 instead of a C2?
Because of the nature, if you're going to have a paint store or something in there, you got to have C3. Paint store, the funny thing, the paint store was there. And-
That's why I was curious.
Yeah. Basically because most of the other property up and down JFK is C3.
Thank you.
On the motion?
On the motion, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding. Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
0470, Alderman Gibson.
Please call, and I believe I requested also that Mr. Yielding's name be added.
He was added to all of those, Alderman,
Thank you.
that had your name on it.
Thank
That
you.
was done without objection.
Call it, please.
This is an ordinance vacating and abandoning easements located at 4516 Hazelwood in the city of North Little Rock, except retaining certain sewer easements. First reading.
Moose Pen rules played on the second reading. I'll explain it at some point.
Second?
Second.
On the motion?
On the motion, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
This is an ordinance vacating and abandoning easements located at 4516 Hazelwood in the city of North Little Rock, except retaining certain sewer easements. Second reading.
Alderman?
Moose Pen rules placed on third reading. This is to allow them to build. They're doing away with the easements. They don't. The sewer department is keeping their drainage and their sewer easement. They're already there.
Second.
Motion made and second to suspend the rules on the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
This is an ordinance vacating and abandoning easements located at 4516 Hazelwood in the city of North Little Rock, except retaining certain sewer easements. Third and final reading.
I need to make sure with Mr. Mills that the easements we're retaining are the proper ones. Ready to vote then?
I think he's saying okay.
I submitted a drawing to the legal department, and I believe those are included in your...
Is Exhibit B is here, as is Exhibit A. And we're
Yes.
keeping those.
Yes, and we will have continued access to those small easements, then, so we're okay.
On the motion?
On the motion, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Witcher.
Yes.
Emergency Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding. Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
00472, Alderwoman Robinson.
Please call it.
This is an ordinance allowing a special use for a daycare center in an R4 zone for certain real property located at 1224 Franklin Street in the city of North Little Rock. First reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place on second reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Motion, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
This is an ordinance allowing a special use for a daycare center in an R4 zone for certain real property located at 1224 Franklin Street in the city of North Little Rock. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place on a third reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
This is an ordinance allowing a special use for a daycare center in an R4 zone for certain real property located at 1224 Franklin Street in the city of North Little Rock. Third and final reading.
On the question?
Gibson.
I'm sorry. Alderman Height?
I just want to make sure I'm reading this map correctly. They're requiring a fence around the playground, is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, and then that alley, is that a fence or a barrier going across that alley to keep vehicular traffic from driving from 13th down to, I'm not sure what that next street would be.
Okay, you're gonna have to
12th? Is that a barrier there, Robert?
ask Robert that, because
Church, isn't it?
this is Barron Cross Baptist Church.
Okay, but
No,
the playground is fenced, but that's separate from the daycare building, main building itself. And can vehicular, you see 13th Street, I'm assuming that, is that north? Yeah, that's north. So they're traveling south down that alleyway there, or the drive, and then they have to turn and go east just before they get to the playground. Is that a barrier across that driveway?
No, it's just a drop-off. It's a
The drop-off?
area at Bering Cross Church. It's
Pick
just
up
showing
and
how you
drop
can
off,
pull in,
not
drop
actually-
off, and
not
go
drop
out
off
to
the side of
Parker.
the mountain.
Charlie, that is actually a covered drop-off area.
They're coming
right
through
there.
here and going that way. What's this right here?
Portico.
What's this right here?
This right here that right there, that's just the rest of the alley.
the
I don't
boundary
know
of
if
the
it gets
map,
through or
isn't
not.
It goes through.
It goes through their parking lot. It's
Yeah.
not specifically an alley, it's a parking lot.
But to get those kids from the school, from the daycare building to the playground, they got to cross that alleyway.
Yes.
Yeah?
Right.
Is that a hazard?
It's what they have.
No, it's not a hazard.
Just questioning.
I crossed it for many years going to church there, and I can assure you it's not a hazard.
Well, that's adults crossing it. You got children now.
I was a kid.
He's still a kid.
I'm still here. I didn't get run over.
And
All
look,
right, on the motion?
Gibson.
Gibson votes yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
On the emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
That's all the legislation.
Mayor, I hate to do this. I'd like to recall 0456 for an amendment to the emergency clause. Since I
Well-
voted on the affirmative of 0456, which is the residential design board,
Oh, I know the ordinance.
I need to bring it back up because I was reminded of something by our city attorney.
Now, you're
a few
just
minutes
doing it on the emergency clause? the only
Right,
thing?
because I want to go into effect immediately so someone else can't go build something, come in tomorrow and get a building permit to go and get something under the old set of rules.
I'll second that.
No, I make the motion, okay. I want the rules to go into force now,
Right.
As soon as he signs it.
as soon as you sign it.
Proper motion, on the motion to reconsider?
On the motion to reconsider, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
All right, the emergency clause is now before us.
Yes. And I'd like to move to leave the emergency clause exactly as it was in the original legislation.
Is there a second
Second.
on the motion?
On the motion, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
I apologize for that.
That's fine. I know that, one of the things that Mr. Boyles, if anybody comes in and wants to do anything, I'm going to be taking a look at this. I don't know exactly what I may or may not do, but if anybody comes in and wants to do anything that's a variance of this, please notify me. If not, then obviously this is in effect. Alderman Witcher?
Mayor, if you will recall, and ladies and gentlemen, at the last council meeting, we made the announcement that Mr. and Ms. Susky would be going to Hollywood, and Ms. Susky would be appearing on Wheel of Fortune and filming on last Friday. Well, she did that, and I think Mr. Susky has something to tell us.
Well, unfortunately, legally, I can't tell you exactly what happened, but Mayor, I can proudly say North Rock was represented extremely well. So well, on January 14th, a Friday night, we will have a watch party that will be also a celebration party, and you can see just how well North Rock was represented.
Well, one of the things I might ask is, Mr. Sisson and I are in the middle of budget hearings. Will we be able to count on any assistance come balanced budget time?
You would have to ask the winner of that, not her husband.
We may need a little bit of that. Any other council member? Alderwoman Robinson?
I want to talk about the, we still have the mobile home on Boyer Street. What's the status?
On which one on Boyer Street?
The one that was placed there a few months ago, the modular home, I'm sorry.
No, the construction of it.
The construction of it. What's the status? Are they coming in compliance or what?
We had all the inspectors out there about 2 weeks ago. They took the sides off. There were some minor modifications required. They're working on replacing the windows. I don't believe they started putting on the sides, but I imagine you'll hear about the status of it here in a minute. But it's still underway. We have not been satisfied as to the exterior finishings of that structure.
Any other comments by the council?
The chief probably knows about these. Fire chief, have you seen these fire hydrant flow indicators that the Central Arkansas Water Department is handing out?
Yes.
Okay.
If you tell us what they are, because there'll probably be more floating around.
There's, these have, on the fire hydrants themselves, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're painting a stripe. It's either red, orange, green, blue, or yellow, depending on what the gallons per minute, what the flow is on at that particular fire hydrant.
Correct. That's the anticipated flow that would come out of that hydrant.
Right.
Also, it lets us know which hydrant is on which main, so we won't be robbing from two different hydrants.
As opposed to painting the fire hydrant red, orange, green, blue, or yellow, they're putting it, putting the stripe on.
Little Rock saw fit to paint their hydrants silver, such as ours, so, and they like them now.
Good.
I mean, so general citizens are not real, except to satisfy their curiosity, really aren't interested in this, are they?
Correct.
So this is just simply for the fire department, when they go to a fire hydrant, to know approximately what the fire flow on that hydrant is.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay,
You'd be interested in it if you lived in an area with a bunch of red around you. You'd be real interested in it. Your insurance company might too.
We don't have any red, do we, Chief?
Still have a few in some areas, yes, sir.
We do.
All right.
Some of the smaller mains we do have.
Any,
Just
any
another
other
example of your ex officio member of the Central Arkansas Water Commission at work.
Well, we sure appreciate that. Ex officio. Microphone's open.
Good evening. My name's Roy Skinner, and a few comments about last month's visit here. And if I could, I'd like to pass out a copy of my report that I received from Code. Time? Okay, first of all, there's a lot of other places I'd rather be. than to be here tonight. A lot of other things I'd rather be doing. But that was the case. Somebody's going to be short one. That was the case in 1957 when I got drafted into the service. That's definitely not what I had in mind. But it was my duty, and I went, and I was willing to lay down my life for my freedom. Freedom means a lot of things to a lot of different people. Most of all, the freedom for me, my number one, is the freedom I have to go to worship my Lord in church. Number two is don't have to live under dictatorship. And that, I think that's what we're coming to with code. I want to, after I was here last month and told my side of the story, I decided I better go down first thing in the morning and get a copy of that report, just in case it would change. And lo and behold, they told me no. Said, you've got to wait 24 hours. So I went to see the mayor, and they said, well, mayor can't see today. So I wanted to get a copy before they changed it. But anyway, he definitely changed it. In other words, it's a lie anyway. And so I went down to see the attorney. And where'd he go? Okay. I went down and seen him, and I said, look, I said, I've got this ticket on some trash that I knew nothing about. I didn't know it was there. It wasn't mine. And I agreed to move it before the trash run. He didn't seem too concerned about, I said I thought that had been changed, and definitely it was a lie. Now, I went over that. I'm going to take that up in court about it being a lie, okay? But the city attorney, I asked him, I said, now, all these years, most all code people that I worked with, including Tom, has many times said to me, I am really proud of the way you take care of your houses and how quick you get things done. You and your brother both, we would be a lot better off if we had landlords that worked like you did. And I said, why, when I've got a record like that, would I get a ticket like this? And he said, well, we'll consider that in court. If you've been a good landlord, we'll take that up. And then he said, if you're going down the road and you're speeding, you don't know it, and the policeman pulls you over, what's going to happen? I said, pardon me? He said, if you're going down the road and you're speeding, the cop pulls you over, you're going to get a ticket, right? And I said, well, I've been stopped twice, as far back as I can remember, and once was, I got a ticket. I was doing 15 over, and he got me on radar, and I was speeding. And he said, you're doing 15 over, I got to give you a ticket. So I said, okay. Next time I got a warning. But I'm just going to go, I'm not going to call no names on a couple. I have a report on one of them, and I know about the other one. Whenever a code officer hides around a corner or sits around a corner and sees somebody drives up in a truck on his own property and takes some boards and stuff out and lays it on his property, and they sit there and they wait till they get it all laid out. Then they drive up and say, hey, what are you doing? He said, well, this came from a house that I just remodeled in North Little Rock, and I brought it over here because the trash hadn't run here yet. Code officer says, you can't do that. Give me your ID. I'm going to write you a ticket. And he did. Didn't give him a chance to put it. I don't know. I don't think there's a law. If it did, I break it all the time. I even take garbage sometimes. If somebody's moved and I get over it and the garbage is already run on one of my addresses and hadn't run over to another one, I take that over there. But even if it is against the law, and I don't think it is, he should have been told, hey, put it back on the truck. But he wasn't. And I don't know of no law that gives a code officer the authority on a non-light threaten to tell the landlord you got a broken window or you got a door busted at a tenant's house, and if you ain't here by 5 o'clock, I'm gonna give you a ticket and I'm gonna sit here and wait. And he did. And I don't know where you get the authority to do that. But anyway, if you'll take the, first of all, look at the diagram of my property on 18th Street. Don't you have a copy? You got two? Okay.
I just got one.
Okay, if you'll take that and turn it where the alley be in the back, you'll see my house, in for neighbor's house, a small storage shed the tenant uses, a large storage shed in the back that I use, and right beside of it is a neighbor's storage shed. If you'll take picture number 1, all that lawnmower and them logs and stuff is behind my shed. And this is the pictures that the Officer Wright took, okay? Look to the right of the neighbor shed, and it's clean. Man, a nice clean property behind the shed, and over there row it, and look what time that was took. Okay, look down on 2, and you'll see my shed. To the left is a garbage barrel. I don't know where it come from. And notice all the shrubbery is on that side of my building. Now, if you'll take 1 and 2 and put it on top of 4, man, look at what time this picture was took. A minute or so first. My property is clean. The lawnmower is way over on the other man's property, turned the wrong way, and there's all them logs and stuff that's on my property. Mr. Wright's own picture. And Mayor, I hope if you said to code about 6 months ago, tired of all this mess, quit writing warning tickets, do your job and get it done. I hope this is not what you meant. And as far as the turn is concerned, so about 6 months ago at the fire hall, the water company, you had a meeting with the safe team and code. And when you said, now I'm going to say, if you said, now I was told by a good reliable source, but I wasn't there, okay? But you have we ain't in court, but you have the right to say I didn't say that. But if what I heard was right, and you said, don't give no more warning tickets, step on some people's toes, and give some tickets. I hope this is not what that you meant. That's all I got to say, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Skinner. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Bobby Taylor. I heard y'all talking a few minutes ago about some signs ordinance. I've got a sign. The sign is not what I have a problem with. It's what's attached onto the other side of that sign. It's this Morgan portable building. Somewhere or another, there's some paperwork that I need to where I can watch this thing, see it develop. I called Mr. Broyles, first I called the planning, and one guy down there I talked to, I don't remember his name, but he said if I had it, I'd send it to you. And I finally got hold of Mr. Broyles, and he sent me this. This is no way what that looks like out there. And I know there's some more paperwork, because when Mr. Broyles and Mr. Grice was standing up here that night, waving these papers around and talking about modular home, that's the picture and the drawing that I need. Where do I have to go to get that?
Well, I assume that, what, are you talking about something that was filed or attached to some
Yeah,
legislation?
well, Mr. Broyles and Mr. Grace, they had it up here that night.
Well, Mr. Boyles, you know what he's talking about?
If this here is what y'all had, I can understand why there was such confusion over it, because this here ain't nowhere near what we have out there. They have come out there and put some small porches and stuck some little awnings up over the top of it. It looked like a bill of a cap on the outhouse, and the more they do to it, the worse it looks. And like I told you before, I'm going to be here every council meeting to report, if there's any way possible, that I'm going to have that thing pulled out of there. But, I mean, it may be in there. Mr. Vestal over there, he told me one night out here, I asked him about it, and he said, well, it's in there. There's nothing you can do about it. I said, well, I don't know about that. But every one of these aldermen up here said something about this. And I got it wrote in here in this book that I got off the tape. And there ain't none of them that spoke about it that spoke good. It was all terrible, disgusting. I don't like it. I don't know what we can do about it. But there wasn't any of them that was for it. And Barry, Alderman Barry, his comment was that he wanted a drawing or a diagram to every alderman. That was his comment. And Mr. Witcher, he talked to the city attorney, and he asked him if, he said, I think we do we have the power to reverse this if they miss some clause in there that they don't do like they're supposed to do it. And Mr. Morley said yes, but he said it's very seldom ever enforced. But I'd like to have the diagram and the drawing of that to let someone else look at it, because I think there's a rat in the wood pile here somewhere or another. And I'm going to do my best to get him out in the open where maybe y'all can help me. And I want to say that I appreciate Mr. Gibson and the others that worked on this committee, that maybe this won't happen to nobody else. And I will be back. I appreciate y'all.
Mr. Susky, can you work with Mr. Boyles to take a look and see if there's anything that is going on out there? Mr. Boyles, if you'd help, find any facts that Mr. Susky may need to take a look at what we've done. And I know Alderman Gibson, Mr. Taylor, as you mentioned, as a result of this, move forward with us trying to prevent similar things from happening in the future. Something's happening out there now that we have an opportunity